All right. Good, welcome, everyone. I was going to
Oh.
morning. I know.
Nice morning.
Where I am, where Jen is, and where our guest is today, everybody. But welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. I have no idea what episode we're on here, Jen, but season 5?
Yeah, the banner is about to pop up.
Okay. Damian had
There it
asked me,
goes.
and I couldn't tell him.
Season 5,
I knew it
episode
was 5 or
6.
6. 5.
Yeah.
Oh, so I got those two numbers correct. 5
Right.
and
Yes.
Right.
All right. So for those of you watching or listening live, good morning. For everybody else, good whatever time of day it is. Thanks for joining us again. As always, I'm your host, Adam Smith, with Just the Tips Coaching. And with us pretty much as always, unless she has kicked me off of the show, is our marketing director, Jenn Wayboer. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning, Adam.
And we've got a really cool guest for you guys today. It's not all that often that we have a local or pseudo-local real estate agent as a guest for the first time, and that is the case today. So welcome, Damian Nicholson. Good morning, Damian.
Good morning. No, I appreciate that. I actually didn't realize I was your first pseudo-local agent on the podcast.
No. It's just it's rare that we get somebody who's never been on the podcast before.
It's
Gotcha.
usually
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, we
Awesome.
We spend a lot of time kind of grilling our guests to see if they would make good fodder for repeat episodes. So we'll probably do that to you too.
Okay.
We'll just kind of analyze as we go. There will be a quiz later, so sit tight. But typically what we do is try to get a little bit of background, and yours is pretty diverse. But then try to lead into how in the world you got into real estate. And we've seen some unique paths. We've had a guest on from California a number of times who was a librarian before he got into real estate. That's a unique path. But you were in the service, Army, I believe.
Yes,
and thank you for your service. And I'm guessing, knowing what I know about you, you grew up in the service.
I did.
You were an Army brat.
Actually, Air Force.
Air Force, okay. Cool. And as a result, you were born overseas.
So I went to middle school and high school overseas in Japan.
Okay.
Oh,
In Japan.
cool.
Very cool. And how long have you been out?
About 3.5 years now.
Oh, not long. Okay. So you haven't been doing real estate all that long.
Not really. Not that long.
All right. Well, then let me back up a little bit so that our audience has some idea of what goes on here, because we do a pretty thorough investigation over a pretty solid period of time, a year and a half, tracking a real estate agent's production before we invite them to be on the podcast.
Okay.
And as a result that you're here, we know you're doing decent business, that you would actually have something to lend to our audience when it comes to where your business comes from, how you do your lead gen, how your team is structured, how you're putting these technical and tactical pieces in place to have a successful business. And lo and behold, you've done it in a really short time.
It's been exciting. It's definitely been a change, and I'll tell you what, I've absolutely loved the journey. I want to change it for the world.
All right. Well, let's talk about how you started. I'm guessing you finished your service in Colorado Springs.
I did, yes.
Okay. And for those of you that aren't local to the area, Colorado Springs does have a large military population. There are a number of bases, the Air Force Academy. There are Army, Navy, Marine, and Air Force units in Colorado Springs. And it is a big part of the population there in southern Colorado. And where were you actually serving when you finished your tour or tours?
Actually, here in Fort Carson, although I didn't spend much time here, I spent most of my time either in Afghanistan or in other states training.
Okay. As is common, no question. And that seemed like a good fit for real estate in the Springs. How? Tell us how. Bridge that gap for us, Damian. Come on.
So, I mean, really just one door closed and another opened. And so originally when I got out, I had a contract to go to Iraq for a year. And like every other military guy, didn't know anything about finances, didn't know anything about money. So I thought I'd go contracting, fix my finances, because I really had some goofy credit. lots of credit card debt. And 3 days before shipping out, I didn't realize I was supposed to do a security contract for one specific guy, some higher up. And they called me and they're like, hey, he's not going, you're not going. Good luck.
Nope.
3 days before leaving, and they just dropped me. And I was like, ooh, okay. I was like, so now I don't have a job. I'm now fresh out of the Army, and I already let go of plan B, C, D, and E. I was like, I have nothing else going for me. So absolutely freaked out, submitted like 200 applications in the first week because I was terrified. And an agent from Keller Williams, recruiter, hit me up and says, hey, we got your application. You want to be a realtor? I was like, I don't know what that means. Yes, I need a job. So now I'm here.
I don't know what that means, but sign me up.
So yeah, basically that's what happened. And then part-time, actually started working with some other guys, built up a short-term rental property management business. And then that became huge. And then I was continuing to work on my real estate license, and I realized I didn't like property management as much. And so finally got into sales and been doing it now full-time for about 3 years.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a big hill to climb in a short time frame.
It was fun. It was definitely fun.
I'm sure it is. This is really great stuff. There's no question. I don't think a lot of people see that angle of it. They understand that, well, the ones that have been in it for 3 years, right? And that's going to be the survivors, as we put it. We know based solely on the NAR stats that 80% fail in 2 years. So if you've been doing it for 3, we'll put you into that survivor category for sure. And of course, you're doing survive and thrive, which is really cool. But tell us how that started out. I mean, how did you kind of transition then from the property management side to buying and selling?
So when I was in property management, so it was a brand new company. There wasn't any other short-term rental companies out here in Colorado Springs. So I worked with two brothers, and we didn't quite see eye to eye on how things needed to be done. And so finally I was just like, you know what, I'm going to cut ties with this. This is no longer fun for me. And I had my real estate license now. I hadn't hung it up anywhere. I hadn't done anything with it. So I found a independent broker here in town, a local broker, and I actually loved working with him. I sat down and talked with him, and his whole thing was like, hey, I built my business off door knocking, and I had no money. I had like everything I was invested into that business. And plus again, that financial status I was in just didn't really have any money to begin with. So I didn't have money to go out and buy leads. So I was like, okay, door knocking. I was like, I can do that. That doesn't cost me anything other than putting some miles on my shoes. I was like, I've done plenty of that. So turned around, worked with him for a little bit, learned how to door knock, learned how to create those conversations door to door, and just kind of built up from there. And then after a while, I was able to afford a dialer, and now I've built my business primarily off of cold calls.
Wow. Okay, so these are two really unique angles, right, Jen?
Yeah.
This is stuff that blows our mind. Years ago, and don't get me wrong, I'm never going to judge somebody for how they want to do their lead gen. I only judge you if you don't do it. I remember years ago, we had a coaching client, a new real estate agent, that says he's going to try door knocking. Okay. Yeah. It's not something I would do. I don't think the ROI is there in my business for the time spent. It is a time-consuming tactic, although let's not pull any punches. There's no expense.
Right.
None, right? Okay. So he says, I'm going to do 4 hours every Saturday. Great. More power to you. And after a month, he calls me and he says, well, that didn't work. I said, okay, let's slow down a little bit. You did 4 hours every Saturday for a month. 4 Saturdays, 16 hours, which is like one work day in the life of a new agent.
Yeah.
And so don't tell me it didn't work. Tell me it sucked. Tell me you hated doing it. But don't tell me that it didn't work. If you did every Saturday for a year for 4 hours, that shit is going to work. You got to be constant and consistent in that, like you would with any of your lead gen activities, whether it's social media, video, chasing internet leads, not something that we would recommend again. But tell us about these door knocking experiences. You've got to have great stories from it.
Oh, I've had some really fun ones. And it's funny because everyone tried to scare me away from it. Everybody's like, oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't do this. I'm like, well, I was like, my mentor, he's the one door knocking, and this is obviously working for him. So I was like, I don't have money, so I need to go make something happen. So I would go out and I would have a minimum. I would go knock 200 doors a day.
Wow.
And so I would go knock on doors, and anytime he had a listing, I would do an open house, and I would knock the entire neighborhood. The entire week, I would knock the entire neighborhood, inviting everyone to the open house. And that's actually how I got my first listing, was door knocking, and some guy across the street from the open house was like, actually, yes, I want to sell. So that's how I ended up picking up my first listing. Got my first buyer from door knocking around the open house, some person that was renting. And then and it was funny because the person that I door knocked happened to be my independent broker's like best friend, and so he kind of like worked it out and helped him work with me. So it was a weird coincidence. But yeah, but when starting that, I went 3 months without a real paycheck. So it took me 3 months to close my first deal. So on the side, I was having to drive for like Uber and do a couple other little fun jobs just so I can pay my bills. But everything I did, I had to be primarily focused on real estate because I knew this is where I wanted to be.
All right. And I'm going to level with you. There was a time, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, where if we caught wind of a real estate agent doing Uber, we knew they weren't all that good at real estate. Mm-hmm. And it kind of became a running joke of sorts. And I sat down and started thinking about it one evening, and the struggles I had when I started as a mortgage broker, when I started my mortgage brokerage. Those are, roughly 20 years ago at this point. So it didn't exist.
Yeah.
And as I sit and think through those, what little of it I can remember now, I probably would have done the same. I could see running Uber or door dashing or whatever that case may be to supplement my income until you get your legs under you.
Exactly.
It's just that shit didn't exist 20 years ago.
Yeah. No, it definitely helped me stay just barely over that water, over that edge, to where I could stay focused on real estate. So if it really wasn't for that, being able to do those things, I probably would have had to go get another full-time job, and honestly probably wouldn't be here. So
I think a lot of us would agree that 3 months is a short time frame.
I was going to say 3 months.
I think the general recommendation is to have 6 months of all expenses saved up before you go full-time into real estate.
Yep.
And even that to me seems really conservative right now, right? I'm sure shit in El Paso County is, similar to what's going on in the Denver metro area. And we've got something like 25,000 agents for what would normally be a balanced inventory. Not that we've seen that, in 15 years of 25 to 30,000 listings would be a 6-month inventory in the counties that make up Denver. And we've got like 1,000, 1,200.
Yeah.
And we've got 25,000 agents in the metro area, or some ridiculous number. And I think if you really want to make a career out of it, it's going to take some time these days.
No, it absolutely does. And that's actually what I love about my businesses, because I'm able to keep my expenses low. I don't have crazy overhead to where I have to make sales happen in order to pay my bills. And that's exactly what I teach my team. Now I do provide some other systems for them, which do cost me money because I can afford them now. But at the time, I believe in putting in some real hard work to build your business, because at the end of the day, you're going to appreciate that a lot more.
Well, if you're willing to knock on 200 doors a day, then yeah, I would say that just speaks for itself. That is hard work. For those of you that are that have not been real estate agents, that aren't in the real estate game, as it were, that's not your career. Maybe you're a loan originator, other parts of our audience, financial planners, insurance people, etc. I cannot fathom knocking on 200 doors a day.
I personally enjoyed it. The way I saw it was best case scenario. I created a relationship with somebody. Worst case scenario, I went for a nice walk.
Yeah, best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you get your steps in. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is mind-boggling. I mean, good on you. No question. That is some serious dedication to perform that kind of activity. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a prime example. This shit works. Door knocking works. Being authentic in live Facebook video works. Whatever it is that you think you want to do and work on and participate in order to up your lead gen game, in order to find buyers and sellers, in order to find buyers and borrowers, and whatever your gig happens to be, just be constant and consistent about it. You cannot work some angle for 16 hours and throw your hands up and say, well, that didn't work. Because if you have the kind of commitment that Damian had when he started knocking on doors, 200 a day, it's going to work. And now we know Damian's a successful agent. We know it's only been a few years that he's been an agent. And he already alluded to having a team. Tell us about that, Damian. What's your team look like? What's that structure?
So this is actually a brand new venture. So a team, Blue Cord Homes. So first off, I didn't want to be the agent. I didn't want to brand me. I wanted to brand the team. Blue Cord is so as an infantryman in the Army, when you graduate infantry school, you get a blue cord. So that's kind of my playback to my military experience. And funny enough, I've gotten a couple borrowers from that in the military community, because we do have a huge infantry division, 4th ID, here at Fort Carson and Colorado Springs. So with that being said, we turn around, and so anyway, started branding that, and then just started that last July, August. And that really started off when I went to Keller Williams for a little bit, managed someone else's team. Me and the team leader didn't agree with how we should do things. He was more transactional. I was more relationship based. And so we really butted heads. I finally said, nope, not doing the team thing. And then I had people poking and prodding me saying, hey, dude, start a team. And I was like, I am not financially prepared to do that. And I was like, there's no way I'm doing that, starting a team. Anyways, July, August of last year, turned around and finally started getting things up and going. Started playing my first agent, Jordan Denman. She had been in real estate for about a year. They closed one transaction, was kind of struggling to get her wheels turning. And so I showed her cold calls. I showed her how to plug in my systems. And funny enough, found out that my systems were duplicatable. So I was like, okay, so my systems work. I've tested on one person. Now I can start branding myself as a team and start really amping that up. Now I currently have 4 agents, 2 employees, and I have 3 people working on their license to come work for me. So right now it's all brand new agents that are coming in to work with me. So,
tell us about the employees. What do they do?
So right now,
what are their roles?
So right now I have an ISA, and her sole deal is just to make cold calls, 5 to 6 hours a day. And I pay her an hourly wage. And then I also have Amy, who is my assistant and primarily TC work right now, because again, she's a little bit newer to the business. So right now, primarily TC stuff. So file management, keeping me in compliance, stuff like that. And then eventually I'll have her help me put together my marketing materials for new listings, manage appointments and stuff like that. But as of right now, primarily just file compliance, because right now I want her to learn the business first before I give her more stuff.
Okay. And I can't express to our audience how important good operations people, good operations systems, just good ops are to making a successful business. I'm guilty party number 1. I probably have the best ops systems for this type of business that could be found. But I suck at building up the sales side. And you got to kind of do them both equally, incrementally, to make it really sustainable. And I come across a lot of people that are really solid at building up the sales side. I've got a bunch of great agents. They do really good work. No problems finding buyers and sellers. But the transactions are tough because they don't have the kind of operations support staff that they need to be making sure that the process is smooth once they have buyers and sellers. And of course, if it's not, then we're really struggling to have buyers and sellers that are going to use us again, refer more people to us, those kinds of things.
Exactly.
So, yeah, pretty solid. And then tell me again, you said there were 4 agents, not including you?
Yes, okay. Not including me. I got 4 agents.
All right. Well, this seems like it's about spot on for where, team structure would be, a smaller team, but this is brand new. This is brand new to you.
Yeah, brand new.
In fact, you were really resistant about this shit for a long time.
I was extremely resistant towards building a team because I had such a negative experience, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to do my own thing. But honestly, I absolutely love coaching other agents. I have other agents throughout the country that I currently coach. I don't get anything for it. I just it's something I enjoy.
Mentorship is a cool thing.
I've absolutely loved it. And for me, being I was a leader in the Army, been a squad leader, been a team lead, and like leading soldiers in those kinds of areas, and then coming back and doing this, it gives me that sense of responsibility again. So it's nice.
Are the people you're mentoring ex-military?
2 of them are.
2 of them. Okay. And I would assume, and thanks to a colleague of ours, Jason, commenting on LinkedIn about this, military guys are the best. The work ethic is top notch. The ability to systemize, to time block, to really be given a task and execute a task is phenomenal. And I think that's true in lead gen. I think that's true in work habit. I think that's true in all walks of life. I'd be willing to bet that Damian made his bed this morning.
I did, yeah.
See, this kind of thing. So when you set out this standard of knocking on 200 doors a day, you met it. You were given an order and you followed it. Now, granted, you gave it to yourself, but I think that kind of background really lends well to the kind of constancy and consistency and regimen that we need in order to be successful in our lead gen, in order to be successful in our business. Obviously, lead gen's at the core of that. For all of you that are in any of these games, I got news for you. If you don't have buyers and sellers, if you don't have borrowers, if you don't have insureds, none of the rest matters. You do not need to know how to negotiate a contract if you don't have a buyer or seller. That's not a problem.
That is exactly what I teach my team. Because the funny part is I got 2 agents that were in that boat where they were part of other companies. I'm not going to say who, but they were so focused on building a sales, like learning how to build out a contract, learning how to create marketing materials. I'm like, stop focusing on that. That's all junk. Nobody cares. Just go create conversations. And that's all I want from you. Just go create conversations. As soon as you can learn how to do that, then I'll teach you how to write a contract. Then I'll teach you how to do the other aspects of business, because none of it matters if you can't pick up a client. I was like, you've already seen it in your first, and that's where most agents fail. Is they come in and they feel busy, but they're not doing money producing activities.
They are busy. I'm going to come in on Monday morning and I'm going to spend an hour figuring out what my business card should look like. And then I'm going to go screw around on social media and maybe change my profile picture in a couple of places, although I'm going to fail at being consistent about it across all platforms. And then, I got to go have lunch. I got lunch plans. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to work on a flyer that I was thinking about for a couple hours. Then I got to go get my kids from school.
Yep. That's I've heard that story so many times, and it drives me crazy. It absolutely drives me crazy. I'm like, why are you focusing on all that junk? And none of it matters. One of my so there's a video I took. I was about 4 or 5 months into the business, just got like my first couple closings. And it was funny because I went out and, Colorado, 1 minute it's raining, another minute it's snowing and hailing, and then it's sunny again. So I was driving.
It was a 3-season day. Got it.
It was a 3-season day. So it was nice and sunny where I was at. I drive to the north side of town. And as soon as I got there, I had my flyers, which was just very, very simple. Just like, hey, we got an open house. Come swing by from 11 to 2 Saturday and Sunday. That's all it was. I had 200 flyers. And as soon as I parked there, it started hailing. And I was like, oh, I'm already out here. I don't care. I'm doing it.
You got out of the car in the hail.
So it started hailing. And so it started hailing.
Gosh.
I got a little selfie video that I took of myself. I said, hey, I don't care I told myself when I got into this, I didn't care what it was going to take. I was going to get out here. I was going to hustle. I was going to knock on these doors. I was like, so I'm not going to let this be an excuse. So I was knocking on doors, and it was funny because I got a listing on this day. Knocking on doors with soaking wet flyers, soaking wet business cards. And this guy finally invites, after like 150 doors, some guy opens his door. He's like, I cannot hear a thing you're saying because there's so much hail. I was like, come inside my house. So he turns around, invites me into his home. He's like, what are you doing out here? I was like, listen, I'm a new agent. I told myself I wasn't gonna let myself fail, whether it was due to weather, snow, don't care. I was like, I was gonna make it happen. So I'm here to create conversations. And he was like, you know what? He's like, I've never seen anybody do that. He's like, I'm actually looking to list my house next month. He's like, I'm looking for an agent. Can I hire you? And I was like, absolutely.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Fantastic.
Very cool.
Never mind the concussion from the hail. Absolutely.
I don't recommend it. If it's hailing, go. You can take that day off. Go cool.
Jen, do a little digging and find that video, would you?
Right.
Of Damian door knocking in the hail, which, by the way, is another fantastic piece that you recorded it.
Yeah,
so
I
you
can absolutely
recorded this. You were obviously authentic as hell with this guy that invited you into his home. Like, look, I'm a new agent and I'm going to do whatever the hell it takes to become successful. And he recognized and appreciated that. And yeah, here, sell my home.
Yeah. It was fun. I loved it. I'm really glad I have that in my memory bank, and I'm so glad I took a video of that because I'm able to show my team. I'm like, listen, I've been in the trenches. I will make cold calls with you if that's what takes you to get up and going.
That is fantastic. Let's talk about that. What is your team doing for lead gen? I mean, obviously you've got somebody banging the phones, doing cold calling.
Yep. So actually I got my whole team. I teach them how to cold call. I teach them how to door knock. Those are the primary things I teach them. Now I currently got a social media marketing team up and going for me. That's a new thing. We got a couple buyers from that. So that should be fun. And all that stuff is being passed off to them. But basically I tell them, so my one minimum criteria is, hey, if you want leads, you need 50 cold contacts per week, like not follow-ups. You need 50 new people that you need to talk to. I don't care if it was a yes. I don't care if it was a no. I don't care. You can't control results. What you can control is your work ethic and the work that you put in. So I'm just like, put in the work. I don't care if you go on Instagram and create 50 conversations about real estate on Instagram. Just go do something active. Now, me personally, I love cold calling. I love door knocking, so I harp on those. But I got another gentleman, Aaron. He's newly licensed, about 2 months. He's about to close a second deal already. But he absolutely loves TikTok. He posts a TikTok video every single day. He's already picked up 2 buyers, and right now he's got a seller that we're about to close actually in about 2 weeks because of that.
But he's constant and consistent
awesome.
about it.
He's constant and consistent. Every single day he's doing a TikTok video.
That is
and when he's not doing
fantastic.
that, he's in the office doing cold calls, which he just recently picked up he did pick up $1 million listing appointment off of it. So
all right. Now here's the trick question. Do you know his TikTok handle?
his TikTok handle?
Uh-huh.
What does that mean?
His username.
His username on TikTok.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Real Aaron Isaac.
Real Aaron Isaac. All right. We're going to track that down and share some of that content too. And yeah, good on Aaron. Again, I really think that there are dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of ways to do this kind of activity, from something as old school as cold calling or door knocking. And it is, let's not pull any punches, to something as modern as TikTok and Reels. And yeah, guys, if you're constant and consistent in your activities, it's gonna pay dividends.
Absolutely.
There's no question about it. I just can't emphasize that enough. And yeah, it's just phenomenal. Well, you're still doing real estate deals of your own now.
Absolutely. No.
Are you still knocking on doors?
Knocking on doors, not quite as much, because I'm able to sit at the comfort of my office and hit the phones,
bang the phones. Yeah.
So primarily I do cold calls, but a lot of times, about the only times I go out and door knock now is if I have a buyer that's very specific, like I love this neighborhood XYZ. I'll go let that entire neighborhood know, and the best way to do that is by knocking on doors. So I'll turn around and go hit that entire neighborhood and say, hey, I have a buyer that's very adamant about wanting to be in your neighborhood. Do you happen to know anybody that's interested in selling, or have you thought about it?
And right now, buyers are willing to give up their firstborn to do it. So,
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there are people out there willing to sell houses in that environment, you can have my firstborn. She's all yours. Sorry, Lisa.
You're giving Lisa away?
I'm giving Lisa away. Yeah. No question. You guys can have her. Absolutely. This is the struggle of the buyer today, without equivocation.
It's crazy for you guys. It's crazy.
The whole thing is crazy. It is absolute Looney Tunes what's going on in the real estate market. Every major metropolitan area, nobody's immune. The Goldman Sachs report last month said because of the demand, the supply and demand, I think it's a supply issue more than a demand issue. Major metropolitan areas can expect a 20% gain this year, which puts us at about 50% in 3 years' time.
That's insane.
That's insane. It's absolutely insane. Yeah, there's no question about it. And I don't want to get into all the ins and outs about how we're, all of you people out there that are touting yourselves as luxury brokers, well, I guess what? All of you out there that want to be luxury brokers, well, guess what? Owning a home in future years is going to be a luxury. So you're going to all be luxury brokers. So yeah, just hang in there and wait because the market's going to force that hand. But yeah, it's absolute Looney Tunes what goes on in the real estate market now. And I really do think there might be a few offers written out there where the firstborn is included. So.
Didn't we hear about one where it was like Netflix for a year was included?
I've seen free tacos for a year.
Yeah.
I've seen the free tacos. I
saw Netflix. Yeah.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Netflix is getting expensive. So
yeah. Well, all the streaming services are. I'd throw in Hulu and Prime and even Paramount so that people can stream their 1883. Yeah, absolutely. No question. God, it is absolute Looney Tunes. So what do you think the coming years are going to look like? And Jen, yeah, I know I see you glaring that we're over time, but Damian's been a great guest. I'll bet we ask him back.
Not glaring.
Okay, you're not
looking pointedly.
What do you think the next 5 years bring for Lead Gen for you and your team? What does it look like? Do we eventually get them all on TikTok?
So social media is going to be obviously the big push. And there's plenty of free content to where you don't have to pay a bunch of people to basically do that for you. But I do plan on hiring a legit in-house social media team, probably in the next 2-3 years. Right now I want to get my team into production. And then from there, get to a point where I can step out and just run operations. So that's right now a 2 to 3 year goal. So in the next 5 years, I see a nice social media platform. Public speaking has always been an interest of mine. So that's basically the 5 year goal is just really get my team up in production and then probably start. So the same way like the Army does it, you have your platoon, you have your squads, and then teams underneath them. Basically, kind of a same transition. Have a couple team leads, and I basically focus on them. I'm like, okay, how can I help you and your teams? And then eventually, I just run operations. That's ultimately the goal.
Okay, Jen, get Damian booked for another episode.
Damian needs to talk with Jason Sharon. Too.
Damian should talk with Jason, no question. Jason's a colleague of ours, a mortgage broker in Charleston, South Carolina. Okay. And his team structure is phenomenal. He has really done that well. In fact, I went out to see him the weekend after Thanksgiving and went to his office. Well, he took me to his office in his Lamborghini. So I went to his office willingly, very willingly. And it's a quiet weekend. I think it was Sunday, in fact. It may have been a Sunday. So really not a whole lot going on. And I was actually able to see everything, all the marker boards and all the desks and even how the team is structured with what proximity they work with other team members in day to day kind of thing. And it was really, really impressive. He is a badass at this kind of stuff, no question. But this is... the two things we really focus on at Just the Tips are lead gen. And we talk a lot about banging the phones. I still do it every day. And we talk an awful lot about social media, or Jen does anyway, because she is that person at my mortgage company that you eventually want. No, you cannot have her. But that is, I mean, she is, and she has some help on her little world at our office as well. But she basically is a social media manager of sorts for our companies. So that's a very big deal. But then we make this enormous pivot from lead gen into team structure. And we talk about how that first person comes on board and the second and the third and sales versus ops and on and on. So yeah, as far out as we're booked on the podcast, Where you at, Jen? April or May of 23?
April of 23.
The timing will be really good. So yeah, let's get Damian back on the show. And now you're glaring.
Yeah.
So, all right. So take us home. Wrap it up for us, Jen.
All right, guys. As always, text tips to 63566 to find out everything you could possibly want to know and probably things you don't want to know about the Just the Tips team. You can book a free hour of coaching with us. You can get a copy of Adam's book, Just the Tips. I'm still getting used to this new camera and where things are. Both of our events, we're in full planning mode for Social Media Day Denver, which is Thursday, June 30th.
That'd be a good one for Damian and his team.
Yeah. Thursday, June 30th at Metro State University, full day of social media content. And then Mile High Mastermind, September 16th and 17th at the University of Denver. And I haven't even told Adam this, but Jason Sharon is our first committed speaker for the event this year. Really excited
very cool
to hear him talk about systems and structure and all that. So if you are interested in speaking or you know anyone who would be a great speaker or you just want more information, again, text tips to 63566. We do not have a show next Monday, so we'll be back in 2 weeks. Yeah, okay. I know. No show for Valentine's Day. I know.
Oh yeah, it's Valentine's Day. I better.
That's not why we're not having a show.
I better get the wife a gift.
Yes, you should.
All right. I already spilled the beans because usually we'll have a conversation a couple of weeks ahead. I didn't spill those beans, but the conversation will be: are we doing gifts this year or not? Usually not, because why? If we want stuff, we have that stuff. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I did spill the beans that you're on the hook because I did get you a gift this year. So.
Matt and I will be in New York or DC that day. So
that's what it is. Yeah, it's hard to run this show without Jen running the show. Well, Damian, thank you so much. I know it's hard to carve a half hour, and now we're probably more at like 45 minutes to do this with us on a Monday, especially considering your production, your team, on and on. So yeah, I cannot express my gratitude for that enough. And I hope that you would be as willing to do another episode as we are to have you.
No, absolutely. This was a ton of fun. I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, we will certainly make that happen. And Jen, why don't you run our extra, and Damian, stick with us. We'll talk for a couple of minutes off air.
Sounds good.